Hello and welcome to episode 41 of the Bibliophile series. In this series, we look at articles from around the internet and I go through them to the best of my understanding and share with you what is happening in these articles. So this week, in this episode, we are taking an article, How Polluting Shipwrecks Imperil the Oceans, written by Kyle Hoekstra. And this is an article from the website History Hit. The First and Second World Wars saw an unprecedented deployment of technologically advanced ships in warfare at a significant cost in lives and vessels. Okay. So, marine warfare was an important tactic by which they worked. The wrecks of these heavily armed and resourced vessels often settled on the seabed, where they continued to affect some aquatic systems. So the ships that were used, a lot of them got destroyed and are now sitting at the surface level of the ocean, and they are affecting some aquatic systems. Managing pollution from these shipwrecks is complicated by slim data and limited international cooperation, often rendering responses too late to prevent serious harm to marine ecosystems and coastal communities. Okay, because of lack of data, there is a lot of inaction. And by the time intervention usually happens, it is too late to prevent serious harm. Yet, hazardous shipwrecks is an issue which the Lloyd's Register Foundation, we don't know what Lloyd's Register Foundation is, has selected as one where the deployment of its funding and knowledge networks can make an impact. So they have decided to do something about these marine pollutants, so to say. Of the approximately 3 million sunken and deserted vessels in the world seas, over 8,500 are deemed potentially polluting wrecks by organizations such as the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Okay. 3 million sunken and deserted vessels in the world seas. Over 8,500 are deemed potentially polluting wrecks by IUCN, a body. The greater part of these wrecks date to the world wars of the 20th century. These sundered craft, sundered would mean submerged craft, contain harmful chemicals, unexploded munitions, and around 6 billion gallons of heavy fuel oil. 6 billion gallons. By comparison, the 210 Deepwater Horizon spill, one of the largest environmental disasters in the world history, released 210 million US gallons of crude oil into the Gulf of Mexico, a figure some 30 times smaller. So 6 billion gallons by the warships, 210 million gallons was already deemed as one of the greatest environmental disasters in world history. Okay. Given shipwrecks are prone to continuing corrosion and breakdown, leaks from sunken vessels are inevitable. Severe weather events resulting from climate change will likely speed this up. The 2022 report in Frontiers in Marine Science highlighted how sediment chemistry and microbial ecology surrounding the wreck of an 80-year-old German patrol boat in the North Sea was influenced by its leaching chemicals. Okay. Leaching would perhaps mean chemicals that are coming off it due to chemical interaction over an extended period of time. And this is very much in line with what was mentioned in the previous paragraph. The V1302 John Mann had been bombed and sank. And this is the V1302 John Mann, is perhaps the 80-year-old German patrol boat. And bombed and sank, and despite the wreck being relatively benign, malignant means something that causes bad things, benign means something that does not cause anything, or harmless is benign. Compared to those powered by oil, was proved to be polluting the seabed. So this relatively benign patrol boat was proved to be polluting the seabed. Imagine whatever is malignant, whatever is genuinely harmful, what damage they will cause. Okay. The researchers estimated that in addition to munitions would be weapons and bombs and everything. Shipwrecks from both world wars contained between 2.5 and 20.4 million metric tons of petroleum products. However, scientists have limited data to make predictions on where leaks might take place. Responding to leaks, when they do occur, is also expensive. And it's not clear who should bear the cost. This is always the problem. Everyone is always fighting. Paisa kaun dega? Certainly, for the developing nations who are often affected, many of whom were not participants in the world wars, the cost is prohibitive. Developing nations. So, developed nations are the ones whose per capita income is significantly high. Developing nations where the per capita income is not that high, and a lot of them were not even part of the world wars. For them, engaging in rectification of the leaks or doing some sort of let's say rectification activity is very, very expensive. In coastal nations such as the Philippines, there are limited technical and financial resources to manage the threat of hazardous wrecks. So, Philippines has been given as an example of a developing nation where the cost is prohibitive to rectify the errors that have been caused. Under the legal doctrine of sovereign immunity, ships sunk in war are not subject to the jurisdiction of any other state. In other words, they are still owned by the country they sailed for. So if a German boat sank somewhere close to Philippines, the German people or the German government still has ownership of that boat. So that is an argument being made. Let's see. Oil pollution from shipwrecks is a threat which the IUCN resolutions determine is in need of evaluation and tools with which to address it. The charity Lloyd's Register Foundation has developed a program of work to support this, directly funding projects focused on safety and engineering solutions. Lloyd's Register Foundation has set out to move the reactive emergency response mode of intervention towards a more strategic approach by contributing to the development of technical standards and protocols. So instead of being reactive, they are trying to be proactive. Even before a calamitous situation develops, they want to engage and do the right thing and fix it. To this end, experts are brought together through the strengthening of coalitions, including the International Committee on Monuments and Sites, ICOMOS, and the Ocean Foundation. Towards this purpose, experts are brought together to the strengthening of coalition. Basically, they're getting a lot of international bodies involved so that combined resources can be put to good use. On the other hand, Lloyd's Register Foundation's funding of the Secretariat of the Cultural Heritage Framework Program, the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. Such a huge heading. Cultural Heritage Framework Program of the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development is intended to improve collaboration between ocean stewardship efforts and heritage bodies and support initiatives relating to low carbon shipping and blue finance. Blue finance would be climate aware investing related to ocean friendly projects and water supply resources. Okay. Years of erosion on the 8,500 plus potentially polluting sunken vessels have shifted the issue of ocean and marine ecosystem threatening fuel leakage to a when, not if, a when. So this is a danger that we are definitely facing. This is a danger that will definitely rear its early head and cause damage. And we are only now figuring out the timeline of the damage rather than if that damage will actually happen. Bringing the topics of safety and remediation to the surface. Okay. Fairly straightforward article. This is 624 words in length. So this is not like one of those longish articles that we usually have. This is an article that could potentially come up in the CAT exam as well, because passage length of 624 words is not out of possibility. This is very much an acceptable passage length. Perhaps not in the last two CATs, but let's say 2021 or 17, 18, 19, so most definitely. The fresh Kincaid grade level is 11.12. So somebody who's in the 10th, 11th grade should be able to understand this. The reading E score is 56.48, which means this is fairly difficult to read. There are a lot of technical terms. There are lots of international bodies that have been referenced in the passage that may not necessarily be easy to comprehend. And that is all for this week's passage. Essentially, what we're saying is, see, of course have the issue of climate change impacting our world. We also have this issue of marine pollution being caused by a lot of vessels that are under the sea, and with passage of time, leakage is happening, damage is being caused. One of the biggest challenges is identifying who is responsible for fixing those damages. There are lots of international bodies that are doing their bit in order to get to the right resolution, but you can't really. There is no. Uh, there is lack of data and there is lack of willingness in order to identify who will fix it. That is a challenge that we are facing. It is an issue of when rather than if we will face this challenge. That will be all for this articles in the next episode.